Hi, I'm Perry. Welcome to Living Your Best Life with Eddie Stone, founder and CEO of Touchstone Essential. Hello, Eddie.
Hello, Perry. How are you today?
I'm good. And you?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. We're getting ready here in the States for a big holiday, big Thanksgiving holiday. And my wife and I are actually going to host both sides of our family for the first time in quite a few years. So there'll be a couple dozen people at the house tomorrow. And that should be fun and interesting and chaotic and all of those things. But we're super excited about it. So.
It sounds very fun to me. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Uh-huh.
much.
Okay.
And to everybody that's listening, if you happen to listen to us on Thanksgiving Day or whenever, we hope you've had a great holiday or enjoy your holiday.
Okay, Eddie, today, what are you going to bring us on health tips?
Well, we're going to talk principally about electromagnetic radiation. And I know that's a topic that people think a lot about. You've got, literally every kind of device you can think of in your home is emitting electromagnetic radiation. Your blender is talking to you. Your alarm system is talking to you. Your smartwatch is talking to your smartphone, and it's everywhere. And so we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about, just in general, a little bit more about detox. We've, again, in the States, got this horrific situation with fires. I was actually just in California last week, and Southern California has just really been quite devastating. And of course, it's not just the destruction and the death and other things that come with it, but there's the lingering impact of all of these man-made fibers and materials that burn, the heavy metals and other toxins that they emit into the air. And so we're going to talk about sort of these subjects in general. But before that, if it's okay, I've had quite a few people, both from our show together, but as well as the show that you do with Kent, reach out to me through Facebook, and they've sent me some, I think you call it Messenger. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Messenger messages. And so I thought I would just, if it's okay with you, we'd start by answering some of these questions.
Okay, sure. Please go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So here's sort of the first one, and I'll just put this one out there, but we'll come back and answer it in just a moment. I've been having trouble sleeping, concerned that it's because of microwave radiation from 5G, and they're asking about the role of Pure Body in sleeping better. So that's partly what motivated me to make sure we have the electromagnetic radiation discussion today. So I'm going to save that, but that's the first question that came in. So here's the second one. My town is near a lot of the wildfires, and I believe that I've just been constantly breathing and smelling and dealing with the destruction and the burnt material from the wildfires now for several weeks. This is someone that I believe is from Northern California. And so they're asking, will Pure Body or zeolite help in that situation? And so let me just sort of remind everybody, the first answer is yes, it will have a positive impact in helping to support your body and its natural abilities to get rid of, or manage, I should say, heavy metals and environmental pollutants, volatile organics particularly. I mean, if you were in a home that caught fire, and as you were escaping, you were breathing some of the smoke, some of what you're breathing, particularly the more accurate aspects of that smoke, are man-made fibers and heavy metals and other things that are burning up or burning off of the dishwasher, countertop, whatever it happens to be that's burning in the home. And so it's very dangerous. And so what zeolite does, it acts like an ion exchanger. And so think of it much in the same way you might think of an antioxidant that comes from a fruit or a vegetable that helps to neutralize a free radical by giving up one of its molecules, and creates a neutral impact. And so that molecule isn't spinning free and damaging DNA. In a very similar way or idea, zeolites take into themselves, right, heavy metals, environmental pollutants, so basically positively charged materials you don't want in your body, and they give up in return a good molecule. So things like potassium, calcium, things like that kind, not in a nutritionally significant way, but just in this exchange. And so what's critical is to just make sure the zeolite is cleaned, it's sized properly, and that it's tested. So I know when people go on our website, they probably get a little bogged down with all the science and the testing material, but we just think it's important to demonstrate efficacy by showing all that test material. So the answer to the question is, will it have an impact on me living near the fires? It will have a positive impact. And remember, also your diet plays a role. So the less processed food, more greens, spirulina, chlorella, spinach, cilantro, these things, turmeric, which we talked about a few weeks ago, excellent for liver detoxification. So that's sort of the first things first. The next question, and I was a little surprised by this question, was, is Touchstone in any way connected to Big Pharma? And so the answer is no. We have no connections to what you would generally refer to as Big Pharma. In fact, I'm quite certain they're not fans of what we do since we take a different approach. Nor are we associated in any way with the big agro or big food. I mean, those are sort of the three things, right? Big pharma, big agriculture, and big food. We have no association. This is a family business. Myself, my wife, and some family members own the company solely, and we have no connections whatsoever to big pharma. I don't think we're on the same page from a philosophical standpoint. So the answer is no, we're not related. Here's the next one. My parents had me vaccinated when I was a child, and I'm concerned about the heavy metals associated with vaccines. Will any of the zeolite products, Pure Body Extra, make an impact? And the answer to that is, if you were a person that when you were vaccinated as a child and you don't, and that vaccine used something like a heavy metal, like mercury or something of that kind to act as a preservative, right? And your body doesn't react well to that, it can create challenges. And there are plenty of individuals we've seen over time that the vaccination site becomes troublesome and they have other sort of neurological issues associated with what happened there. And so we do know that zeolites can support, help the body by dealing with heavy metals such as mercury, which is a highly charged heavy metal. The zeolite is attracted to it because it has a natural negative charge, and so it will support the body in helping to get rid of any kind of excess heavy metal environmental pollutants. It may be a more significant issue, and so if the problems are dramatic and linger, not only do you want to try to use natural supplements to help yourself, but you also want to seek the advice of a credentialed medical professional. There are medical professionals that specialize in heavy metal pollution or toxicity, and so you may need to find something more significant. And then the next one is, I know that several parents that I'm in connection with in an autism support group for children have talked about using Pure Body with their kids. Do we believe that will be effective? We can't say anything relative to the treatment, cure, mitigation of any disease. And we certainly recognize that children that are battling autism, just depends on where the child is on the spectrum, or even adults, right? This really creates a lot of struggle. And sometimes the caregiver, it's quite exhausting and difficult. So we understand that people are looking for relief. There are several autism groups that we work with that utilize the products as a part of a standard protocol of trying to clean up a child's diet, which would be good no matter what the circumstances are, right? I'm a big advocate of a good, clean diet. And we've had people report anecdotally to us of their child's behavior getting better. And so it's an individual experience. What we know is that there's no contraindications associated with Pure Body and or Pure Body Extra. If my child had struggles with autism, amongst all the other things I would do to try to help them out from a behavioral standpoint, a diet standpoint, I would put them on supplements, and that would include Pure Body and Pure Body Extra, really just trying to give my child every chance possible to get some relief and enjoy a higher or a better quality of life. And so hopefully that helps out there. Certainly appreciate the messages, or the questions, I should say, so don't hesitate for anybody listening that wants to connect with me in that way. please feel free to do so. Happy to answer those questions.
Eddie, can I ask a question about the people who live near the fire in California? Like how much do they have to use zeolite and for how long? In just for this specific case, you know?
Well, let's say that their problems were acute, meaning that they really weren't having any sort of respiratory problems or concentration problems or anything of that kind before these crises occurred. And so in that case, maybe their body manages heavy metals or pollutants pretty well. And so they might find that if they use the products for 3 or 4 months, they sort of clear their system and the acute problem goes away for them. My argument, though, for long-term use is the fact that it's out there still in the soil. So no matter what happens, right, things that are grown in that area, that region, are still going to have in the soil. In the soil will be all the fallout from the soot, the ash, the other things that burned up. And so, I believe that just like good nutrition, eating more fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, and less ultra-processed foods, in addition to quality sleep, quality clean water, exercise, these are all protocols that I believe to have a vibrant life, sort of living your best life. Well, also on my agenda is detox on a daily basis, because it was almost like our conversation we're about to have about the electromagnetic radiations. Just because you can't see it or smell it or touch it doesn't mean it's not there, and doesn't mean it can't have an impact on your health. And so I think people should keep using it, but certainly until their symptoms went away, I would definitely focus on using it.
Mm-hmm. So like they should use following the direction, how you call this?
The directions, so for Pure Body regular, it's 3-4 drops, 2-3-4 times per day. And really the same dynamic for the Pure Body Extra, which is 2 or 3 sprays or pumps, 3-4 times per day. And it's almost sort of like the schedule you can get yourself on. Mm-hmm. I would suggest that if they are in a really heavily challenged area with the smoke and other things from the fire, you might try to double that up, right? Just to additionally support the body. But the dosage that's recommended on the label is a good dosage, right? And so if they didn't do anything but follow the dosage on the label, they're still going to support their body, aid their body in trying to rid itself of these environmental pollutants that aren't supposed to be there. And so, but the more acute their issues are, I know when I fly, because of the air quality inside an airplane and the other toxins in planes that come from really the fire retardant material they spray on plane seats and on its interior, which obviously is bigger safety issues with fire, I double up. Mm-hmm. Just because I know my exposure is in excess. And so I certainly know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now you're going to share with us what about the detox?
Yeah. So here's the thing about electromagnetic radiation, and sometimes it's referred to as EMR. And really, we can also include in this radio frequency, RF materials. I mean, essentially what happens is it's silent, right? It doesn't, we don't hear it. It's invisible. It's tasteless. It's odorless. And so we don't necessarily recognize how real it is and how pervasive it is in our lives. I mean, in a modern home where appliances connect to the Wi-Fi in the home, right? The Bluetooth that you have on your phone that talks to your watch, that may also talk to your car. I get in my car, and the way the setting is, it immediately switches over utilizing the Bluetooth on my phone so that my car is itself my speaker as well as my microphone to use my phone, right? It's a safety issue, so I don't have to use my phone when I drive. But, certainly there's things going on electronically, right, to cause that to occur. And it's all based upon electromagnetic radiations that happen. And so it's important to sort of realize it's everywhere all around us. And just to give you sort of an idea of the differences, so there's non-ionizing EMFs, and then there's ionizing EMFs. And so we would think of the non-ionizing as things that aren't very powerful. So low levels of radiation that maybe is coming that's coming from your phone or the blender or the car or your smartwatch, right? No matter if it's an Apple product, a Samsung product, they all sort of act the same way. And then there's the ones that are higher grades of radiation, or more significant, I should say. So UV light, because that can actually change a molecule, right? And so it will relieve it of one of its molecules. X-rays. So that's why when you go in for an X-ray, they'll put a sort of a lead drape on you or a lead smock on you. You always want to make sure your central organs are covered as much as possible, and your thyroid particularly, because you become vulnerable in that regard. And so you've got to think about your life and the more exposure that you have, but it's a very real thing. And so I've got a little, if I can, I got a little list of tips here that I sort of pulled together. And it's hard. Some of this is just habits, right? And a lot of this has to do with our phone. But the first thing I encourage people to do is don't sleep with your mobile phone next to your head. Mm-hmm. I literally know people that will set their phone on their pillow or the nightstand right beside them. And if you're going to sleep with your phone, and you have it on, or you wouldn't be sleeping with it, then set it on the floor. Don't necessarily keep it directly beside where your head is. Some individuals never notice anything, but for some people, it actually affects their sleeping patterns. And so just being conscious of it, right? Some are more susceptible. Notice the EMFs more so than others. So that's first thing. And then when you don't need internet access, utilize the airplane mode on your phone. Almost every mobile phone has an airplane setting, right? It's one way to sort of shut it down as sort of this beacon of these EMRs all the time. Additionally, there are cases you can buy for the phone. I've seen them on Amazon and others. I don't know brands in this regard. I just know there are cases out there that can help with almost a shield type of solution for the phone, something to keep in mind. When you can, instead of necessarily holding the phone up all the time to your face, can you use the speakerphone? Using that feature means you're not keeping it next to your head, and that can also be important. So you can also then look at buying a smartphone that has an SAR rating. And what that means is it emits low levels of radiation. And so that's it's almost like you buy an appliance. It's got the clean ID on it, because we know that's a low voltage or a low electric utilization appliance, right? You can do the same thing with the SAR rating for a phone. Text messaging, when you can text instead of using the phone directly on your ear, I encourage people to try to do that. For the ladies that oftentimes will put the phone right in their bra, you know what? That's a very vulnerable area in the body, and there's no reason to do that, right? You can buy the new workout pants that have a little pocket on the side next to your hip, and which is not as vulnerable a part of the tissue of the body, to keep that in mind. And for goodness sakes, be careful about just handing off phones to kids as a plaything, because they're not playthings. And if you do that, then use the airplane mode at least, and so that you can just sort of minimize. And my whole theory is there's no way for anybody to get away from EMRs, RFs, all of these things, right? They're just out there. It's a part of modern living. But the more we can do to kind of control our exposure, be conscious of our exposure, I believe the better off we are from a long-term standpoint. For a lot of these things, the research isn't really clear. We don't really know what happens to the body and the DNA with 15, 20, 30 years of exposure. And so there's still questions to be answered. The 5G that's coming online really amps up this issue, and something for us to keep in mind. So that's what I want to talk about today, is being conscious of the invisible, odorless, tasteless electromagnetic radiation sources that are in your life, and recognizing they can impact your health. And the bottom line is a good, clean diet, will help support the body in managing these issues. So will the utilization of a good, clean zeolite tested product like Pure Body Extra. And I'm a big believer in utilizing that to have your best health and have your family have their best health. So that's what I wanted to share today, Perry, and I appreciate the chance to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's not easy to live this day, Eddie.
No.
Water everywhere, everything, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know that our bodies were fully prepared for all of this modern onslaught, but here we are, right? So we just got to deal with it the best way that we can.
And your company has many good products too, already, like organic food or this kind of stuff, the protein, right?
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things that we're conscious of is very difficult if you're working, trying to raise a family, just sort of living life to make sure everything you eat is clean and green and organic and all of these things. And so a lot of our products are prepared just for convenience and the control of the cost. You go out and you buy everything organic, properly sourced, all these sort of important ideas from a nutrition standpoint. You can wind up having a smoothie that costs $8, $9, $10. Well, there aren't a lot of people that can afford to spend that kind of money on all the time on something like that. And so we have a greens product with 44 ingredients, right? It's all organics, all the right mixes that I think a serving per day is less than $2. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of things, a vegan protein, which I know you've had and you like the flavor of. It's all a part of one central message: as clean a diet as you can to support the body, being conscious of toxicity, and utilizing the zeolite to also support the body. And of course, there's mind, body, soul issues that we've talked about before. But I think we got to give ourselves a fighting chance. And I think these are strategies and products that can help us do that.
Mm-hmm. Even organic food or organic products, people still, because I do the show with Ken, right? People still asking where should we find, where should we trust, and thank you for being here, so people know now you are here, and trustable, thank you.
Well, let me say that about the organic foods, because I know that's really controversial. And I know that in talking to Kent, he's sort of down on the organic label because he recognizes at a larger commercial level, mm-hmm. with big agro and big food, it doesn't mean as much as it should, uh-huh. or as much as it used to. And of course, we have people that sell us things that aren't honest, right? And so they might label something organic, but it's really not organic. It's really just conventionally grown. So one of the things we try to do, and you can't do this with everything in your life, sometimes you've just got to think, okay, am I at a trusted restaurant? If they've been around a while, so that if they say they purchased from an organic farm, can I believe that, right? I try to make my best decision. Do I buy from a grocery store where the organic is plausible and makes sense? If I'm eating conventional, I try to make sure I clean it, as much as possible. But knowing all the sourcing, it's a challenge for consumers, and you gotta find people you can trust.
Mm-hmm. And now I found you.
Thank you, Perry. Appreciate that.
Okay, Eddie, thank you very much for being here with us tonight or today. Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good holiday, Thanksgiving.
Thank you, and look forward to talking with everybody next week.
Okay. Have a good day, Eddie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.